Hello everyone, and welcome to Without Paddles. Since Destiny became practically unplayable, I decided to give Warframe a go since I've heard really good things about it. Now, after about 800 hours of playtime, I feel that I have enough of an understanding to share my opinion on the game. Warframe is a free-to-play third-person looter shooter from the studio Digital Extremes. I currently play on a PS4, and I must say that I am completely in love with this game. In Warframe, you operate different suits of armor that are called Warframes. Each Warframe has its own unique set of abilities and playstyle. When you start the game, the player is allowed to pick one of 3 Warframes. I started off with Excalibur. My friends told me that I should pick that one since they've been playing the game for a while, and they said it's the best Warframe of the 3, and they were absolutely right. While it may not seem so at first, Excalibur is a murder machine. It can make quick work of enemies with its 4th ability, and it is one of the most effective frames against a specific type of enemy that new players will eventually encounter in the star chart. But before I get into enemies or even the star chart, the movement and the player power fantasy that Warframe delivers is simply unlike anything I've played before. I can cover insane distances with bullet jumps, run on walls, well, more like dash, but still, it's insane. I can bullet jump into a wall dash, into another bullet jump, aim while I'm still in the air to slow my descent and cover even more distance. But that's just the movement, the Warframes. Oh, the Warframes. On top of the insane mobility, most Warframes are powerhouses. Excalibur's 4th ability summons an energy sword that deals insane amounts of damage. Oh, and you get to keep the sword for as long as you have energy. It's not a one-shot use and put away kind of power. But as if the energy sword wasn't enough, each time you swing, the sword emits an energy wave that travels in a cone wherever the player is facing. The energy wave will cut down everything in its path: doors, walls, barricades, enemies, and much more. You will essentially feel like a Jedi ninja and watch hordes of enemies fall down at your feet. But before you become a killing machine, you need to do a little bit of work. Warframe has a pretty interesting system to modify weapons and Warframes. In the game, there are cards called mods, and each mod falls in one of the 5 categories: Warframe, Primary, Secondary, Melee, and Arcwing. This allows the player to modify Warframe's weapons to fit their own unique style. For example, there's a really good Warframe that players can get significantly early in the game called Rhino, or the Rhinoceros Rex as I like to call it, because he's just so good. But anyway, Rhino has 4 abilities just like all other Warframes. The first is a charging ability that dashes forward, killing or knocking down all enemies in its path. The second is Iron Skin. This ability covers Rhino in ferrite armor, making him immune to all damage. Third is Roar. This roar increases the damage dealt of all team members for a certain amount of time. And his 4th is called Stomp. Rhino stomps the ground, lifting all enemies in range into the air and putting them in suspended animation for a certain amount of time. So how does the mod system allow a player to modify a Warframe according to their own style? Well, I can mod Rhino to enhance his 2nd ability, making sure that his roar has a much higher damage multiplier and lasts longer. This will increase the total DPS of the team, making us a much more efficient group. I can also modify his 4th ability to extend so far and freeze enemies for so long that it's almost unfair. But let's face it, no one cares about that, it's all about the Iron Skin. I can mod the Rhinoceros Rex's Iron Skin to be so absurdly strong that he becomes an unkillable juggernaut. This allows me to put away my primary and secondary and take out my melee. Oh yes, Galantine Prime, here we go. I feel like Guts from Berserk cutting down everyone in front of me with my massive sword. Every time I revive a downed teammate while surrounded by enemies shooting their weapons at me, I just stand there and laugh. And just when you're feeling like an immortal god, a nullifier surprise pops a bubble and ruins your day. Anyway, the modding system is awesome since it lets you play your way. Now, the monetization of the game is complicated, because since it's a free-to-play game, the developer has to make money somehow. However, I don't feel like the system Digital Extremes has implemented is unfair. I've spent more money on Warframe than what I paid for Destiny 2, and I haven't regretted a cent of what I've spent on Warframe. On the other hand, I felt absolutely robbed for spending $60 on Destiny 2. So, the best advice I can give you is to try it out and see if you like it. It's free. Now, Warframe is a very grindy and repetitive game, but you get to experience missions differently depending on your Warframe and weapon loadout. And oh my god, the weapons in Warframe. I heard that Destiny 2 is introducing a bow now, which I guess is fitting since eventually it'll become Call of Duty. But whatever, I don't want to get started on Destiny 2. Now this is how you do a bow. Look at this. This is how a high-tech bow should look like. But wait, cause looks aren't everything, right? Can this bow actually kill anything? Let me show you. Not only does this bow look awesome, it has the destructive power to go with it. If it isn't obvious by now, I wholeheartedly recommend this game to anyone that does not mind grinding missions. If you want to experience a player power fantasy that is unmatched, play Warframe. However, starting this game can be kind of rough because of all the freedom to customize and play how you want. Adds a degree of complexity that can be overwhelming at first. Also, at the beginning, it'll feel like you don't have materials to build anything you want, and that can be pretty annoying. But just continue doing the star chart, and you'll eventually have the materials to build whatever you want. To make the beginning of Warframe easy, I recommend for you to join an active clan. The Warframe community is pretty friendly and awesome, I have to add. So experienced clan members can show you the ropes until you get the hang of it. I really want to emphasize how great the Warframe community is. The developers themselves are by far one of the most consumer-friendly game studios I've ever seen. They keep an open dialogue with the community, and you can often see Rebecca Ford along with Megan Everett stream on Twitch. I absolutely adore them. They're awesome and quirky. Not to mention, they know their shit. And they play this game all the time. So, if players see a problem while they play, they definitely see the problem too, and can relate better with their fan base. This studio is definitely not afraid to tackle the hard questions about their games, such as content droughts, reported bugs in the game, Warframe reworks, unbalanced weapons, and much more. They do frequent updates to the game to address all these issues. Since I'm used to the, we hear you but will do nothing from Destiny, this is definitely a breath of fresh air. Digital Extremes even allows their players to submit concept designs that constantly get implemented in the game, and they get paid for it when people purchase the gear. It's all about them fashion frames, baby. But yes, I find it awesome that they allow their fans to interact with the game in this way. They feel like they're more a part of it because of it. Oh, and did I mention this is free to play? Not free to start and then pay, like most free-to-play games. This is absolutely free. Alright, I'm starting to sound like a gimmicky salesperson, so it's time for you to experience it for yourself. So go, play.
Warframe, lives is play free. Warframe, can't tie the team.